Hi and welcome to today's Sanity Diaries. Now there's a little thing you might not know about me. I have got 2 degrees. I've got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and I used to be a special needs teacher. Now that means I have got a multitude of teacher friends around the world that I can draw upon, and the question that I've had a lot from people is how to deal with this whole lockdown situation if you're a parent. So I've called on my friend Daniel, who's a teacher in the UK, and he has come on to give us some tips on how to cope with confinement when you have children. Hi Daniel, thank you for joining me. Just to begin with, I want you to give us a little bit of introduction. What you do, you're a teacher in the UK, what sort of teaching that you do, just give us a little bit of background.
Hi there, my name's Daniel. I'm based in the UK. I'm what we call a primary teacher, so I specialise for 5 to 11-year-olds. My background in teaching has been for that for about 15 years. I'm also what we call a special needs coordinator in the UK, so I'm legally responsible for children that have either additional needs or require additional support in classrooms.
Cool. All of those words all make sense in New Zealand. You're all right.
That's fine. Never hurts to clarify things, though.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so the things we're going to talk about today, to begin with, coping with school closures. Now, this will be something that parents around the world are having a bit of a meltdown about right now. So tell us what your top tips are for helping those parents cope with school closures.
Right. If your school is closed, the first thing parents have to understand is that is a decision that is taken as a last resort. It feels incredibly threatening to families. We understand that in education. But actually, you have to say to yourselves, this is being done with good intentions and good purposes. Top tips for coping. More than likely, your school has provided your child with either PACS or online access to learning. Access it, use it, but don't worry about it. I know it sounds really unusual because we value education so much. If your child's got a pack of things to work through, encourage them to go through it, say, for an hour a day, short bursts. School closures also upset children terribly. Most simple thing for kids at this time, they will actually want some kind of basic routine, even if it's something as simple as every day you get up at the same time. Finally, your schools more than likely will have either websites or ways that they're contacting parents, especially if schools are experimenting with things like the technology we're using for this, home learning. If you can access it at home and you feel safe for your child to do it, give it a try. Put that all to one side though. Schools are very good at coping with crises and emergencies. And when our children return to school, because they will return, the key thing is schools will actually make sure education is running. And the final thing I'll say about school closures is this. We know how much upset it's caused in communities around the world, but schools are already planning for the return of children. Because the day my school closed, which was a very, very tough experience for us all, the next day we already started saying, what are we going to do when we're back?
Good point. Now in New Zealand, they tried, but we didn't get much time to do this. They tried to put all of the learning online, and tried to supply as many tablets to families that were lower income families, so that those kids could access their education online. So yeah, so that leads us on nicely to your next one then. How do you manage your child's education at home? Right. Do you manage it at all?
I think the problem we're all facing internationally with this is we don't have a time limit. If we say think about a traditional school year, we all know we're going to have, say, a 2-week period off or a holiday or 1 week half term, whatever it's going to be. Nobody really worries about that because we go, oh, I'm going to go away for a weekend during that holiday. We're going on our holidays. That mindset now has to be put to one side. Managing a child at home and trying to manage an education, I'm actually going to say something very damning about the internet. There's actually too much information out there aimed at parents and actually at schools as well. You'll come across references like home learning, homeschooling, and things like that. Put that all to one side. If you're a parent watching this, you know your child. You know what your child actually needs at this time. Most kids, they probably want a basic routine. In other words, getting up at the same time, probably being able to access things that they're used to at home. If your school has provided you with either packs or online access to materials, give it a try because it won't hurt. However, and this is the key thing, what I would say, people worry so much about what schools share for people to do at home. If you're sitting there thinking, I don't understand how you teach maths, I don't understand what phonics are, I don't even understand this science concept, put it to one side. Because the reality is there is an expectation of a great bank of knowledge behind that learning. So break it down, be simple. If you're reading with a child, especially a child who is relatively young, they come stand, calmly tell them the word. Unless you've got a good phonological knowledge, it's really, really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working with a child on their maths tasks and they literally don't get it, just say to them something like, how would you do this? Rather than trying to show them something you know. And if you go into the online materials and the online resources from other sources, what I would advise people to do is try to find something that is linked to your country or territory where you are watching this from. So for the New Zealanders watching this, you actually are in a New Zealand system. You can easily access stuff that's in the English language, but is it going to suit your child's curriculum expectations? You won't probably know that. So stick to what you know works well. Keep it simple. Read with your child, even if they're older, and just get them to do things that you think are worth it. Because what we're all going to find is when children return to school, that there are going to be times where we go, right, we've got to work on these skills. But that's when you call upon teachers. But the home experiences, keep your structures in place, but also don't beat yourself up if you're sitting there thinking, I really haven't got a clue what this means. In education, no one's an expert.
It's interesting what you say about using resources that are applicable to your country, especially when you talk about the English language. Here's me, English, living in New Zealand. And I'm going to tell you a funny story about one of the first days I was in a school, because, of course, I used to teach for the first just about a year when I came here. One of the teachers in the staff room said, today I'm going to do the 3 heres. What?
Really?
What? What do you mean? She said, here, here, and here. Not hair. This is here.
Yeah. And I think that's actually where people could easily make big errors with their children at home. English as a language is used by so many countries and so many systems. If you are just randomly Googling things for your child to do, be very canny with what you actually find. It's so easy to think that looks good. You start reading it and realizing that's in American English. Is that going to suit what my child experiences? Also, even though I know the UK system very well, I'm actually based in the English system. The Welsh system, the Scottish system, the Irish system, they're different to each other. You have to be slightly canny. So I would always say, if in doubt, don't use it.
Fair enough. Now, we had a couple of queries from some of our customers. The first one was from somebody who has a child under 5 who usually goes to kindy. And this child is struggling to understand what lockdown actually is. She's upset because she's not seen her friends and she thinks she's never going to go to kindy again. If you were a parent, how would you try and help that child understand what's going on right now?
The reality is, for a child of that age, they're hearing words and phrases that so many people are using. it is going to come down to, first of all, actually talking to that child. Now, every parent and anyone that works very closely with children will always know the right language to use with that child. It is actually about honesty. People sometimes don't want to tell children about very traumatic things or complex things. Afraid to say, this is one of the times when parents in particular have to say to their children, this is happening. Trying to explain what the COVID-19 virus is very tricky. Even people with a scientific knowledge are struggling. What we've been saying to younger children in my school is, this is something we can't see. It's similar to germs and bugs that we sometimes get. And the reason why we have to wash our hands so much is that is going to stop it from being passed on to people. If a child is genuinely struggling with understanding either hand washing or what the virus is, something we did in my school which proved very effective even with older children. Then we had them shaking hands with each other. Then we had them go around the classroom touching things. And suddenly they could see visually where their hands had been. Yeah, kids are going to touch their faces, so they're going to get covered in paint. But then they suddenly realised that the hand washing is so important. What I'd also say with very young children is, yes, they're probably going to be experiencing through the media and in, say, the technology we've got around us, lots of references to COVID-19 and unfortunately death. It's a time when parents are actually going to have to say things like, okay, let's just switch that off. We're not ignoring it, but if there's overload of that information for anyone, while adults struggle, sometimes you just have to say enough's enough. And finally, what I found with the very young children is, if they're saying things like, I'm not going back to school, I'm not going to see my friends, that's when actually you use your technology. How many parents have each other's phone numbers?
Oh, absolutely.
You can't go around to each other's houses for the parties. We know that. You can't do your play dates in person. If people trust each other with phone numbers and providing the adult, whoever's in the room, could your children FaceTime each other, WhatsApp each other on phones or whatever? Technology, if used safely and wisely, can keep those, shall we say, communications going. What I'd also be saying for very young children is their structures and routines are still needed. Again, it comes back to the same thing. What time do you want them to get up in the morning? What things do you want them to experience during the day? And for very young children as well, they will actually adapt, because young children can prove to be very, very resilient and tough. I've seen, because I've got experience with nursery children, which can be as young as 3, them literally come into a school unfamiliar with everything and within hours settle into a routine. And we know it's demanding and tough on parents. Don't put on a performance with your child, but at the same time, keep on selling them that positive message. This is going to change eventually. We don't know when. This is what we're doing to keep ourselves safe. And finally, it's going to sound unusual, just go with the flow. If the weather's sunny and you've got an outside garden, get your kids outside. Because when the weather's raining, that's when you're going to be inside doing all the stuff online. You kind of have to put your teeth a bit with it, because even if you're in my position of being single, living by yourself, that's what I'm having to do. When the weather's decent and under the UK restrictions, I'm able to go out once a day. If it's raining, I'm in. It is things like that that you have to
do. About the same here.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. And one last thing, hand washing. Everybody's got sort of really paranoid about hand washing. I don't know about you over there, but you struggle to get soap, and there's absolutely no way you can get hand sanitizer here in New Zealand anymore. Totally can't get it. So parents that are locked in at home with their kids, how often should they wash their hands? And is there any key times in the day when they should be thinking about it more than others?
Right. It will always come back to whatever health guidance your government or territory has shared with you, because different countries are sharing slightly different things. So actually, common sense is your first approach. Your kid gets up in the morning, they're going to brush their teeth, nip to the toilet, whatever. They're going to need to wash their hands then. What you need to encourage is a routine of hand washing. So before food preparation, food eating, wash your hands. Afterwards, what I would also say is if your child's at home, turn it almost into something to look forward to doing. A lot of people have been saying that you need to wash your hands for 20 seconds. What 20-second audio clip of song is your child
Yeah.
going to like? Or simple things, turn it into a counting game, counting in ones, tens, whatever. I would also say with hand washing, especially with younger, one thing that I found is I've actually had to model it. And I don't just mean showing kids pictures, I've actually had to stand
Yeah.
there doing it. But by doing that, the kids will do it better. And providing your child is at home and interacting in your home environment mainly, they won't be need to be, shall we say, considering their hand washing too much. Is if they go outside, they go outside into the garden, when they come in, they're going to wash their hands. If your child has to leave your home for whatever reason with you, wherever they go to, wash their hands. When they come back, wash their hands. And it's going to sound unusual. Don't make them paranoid about it. Just say to them something, 20 seconds, let's get it done. Because it's very easy for people to get very concerned. Oh my God, they only did it for 19 seconds. If they're washing their hands loads of times during the day with soap, water, whatever, they'll get over it. I've also found with the issue of, say, soap, alcohol-based sanitizer gels and all that, it's one that's been found everywhere. The way my school got around it was we basically just said to the children when we were low on the hand gels and things, have you got actually enough in your hands to go and wash your hands, rather than the infamous let's get the bottle and squirt half
Yeah.
of it into my hands. And have to take that perspective of hand washing, especially with you very, very young children. It's like our first line of defense. Providing everything else is in place, what we call in the UK social distancing, social isolation, and ultimately the shielding. If all those things are in place as well, you're actually doing your child a big service. It's when people don't do all the other things plus the hand washing,
Yeah.
that's when you build up your risk.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Was there
No
anything
problem.
else you wanted to add?
One thing, I've been in isolation or under restrictions in the UK for about a week now.
Yeah, we have
I
to.
will be very honest. I am, in my background, in my past, I have mental health issues, primarily depression on a low level. I have to be honest, I did have what I term a dark moment, but that's actually when you take control of it as much as you can. So if anyone's watching this and they're thinking, I feel like I'm overwhelmed, or alternatively, I don't know what to do next, reach out into your network. One of the toughest things with what we're all going through is we can't interact with people face to face in person.
Yeah.
You are someone who suffers from either mental health issues or you feel like you're in a very complex situation, reach out anyway. Every country will have either support groups or networks that people can access. The online technology that we've got means people can interact. It may not be in person, but it can reassure you so much. For myself personally, my parents and I cannot interact for at least 3 months. I've now got my parents on Skype, my friends video me, communication going on with different people. My parents and my family and my friends know my background very well. They were worried about me. I was worried, but I reached out to them and they reached out to me. And I've also found that if you acknowledge that you could have a risk in this situation and you try to manage it from the earliest stages as much as you can, you're going to help yourself long term. Even if your friend, the person you reach out to, can't help you, they will push you in the right direction. Don't be afraid to say you're having a bad day. Don't be afraid to reach out, because even in these times of restrictions, services are still running. your friends, your family are still there. They won't give up on you.
Fair point.
No problems.
Right. Well, good luck with lockdown. I hear on the news that they reckon you might be locked in till about June. I hope not.
Considering what they've said seems to change semi-regularly, all I'm going to say is when we're released, it's going to be a very interesting time. I think a lot of people will be looking at it in days going, oh, I actually remember doing things like this.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Daniel. Take care.
Problems. Take care.
Thank you, Daniel, for your insights. And the UK have been in complete lockdown for about the same amount of time as we have here in England, although their COVID-19 cases started earlier and have escalated more. So we wish that UK well with their lockdown, and New Zealand stay locked down, because we want to beat this and be released a little earlier, because no one likes to be confined, do they? So have a lovely evening. If there's anything you want me to cover, do let me know. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.